And that's what
I don't see any evidence of collusion. Do you?
No.
Here's another thing. We have seen no evidence from any of these ongoing investigations that anybody in the Trump campaign or the Trump team was involved in any of this. We've been presented with no evidence that an American was colluding with the Russians.
Did not include any evidence in our report, and I say our, that's NSA, FBI, and CIA with my office, the Director of National Intelligence, that had anything, that had any reflection of collusion between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians. There was no evidence of that included in our report.
I understand that, but does it exist?
Not to my knowledge.
First, as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, as you sit here today before the hearing on March 20th, have you seen any evidence of any collusion between what I'll call Trump world, associates, of campaign officials, Trump world and the Russians to swing the 2016 presidential election?
I'll give you a very simple answer. No.
On January 6th, 2017, the intelligence community assessment assessing Russian activities and intentions in recent U.S. elections stated that the types of systems Russian actors targeted or compromised were not involved in vote tallying. So my question as of today, Admiral Rogers, do you have any evidence that Russia's cyber actors changed vote tallies in the state of Michigan?
No, I do not, but I would highlight we're a foreign intelligence organization, not a domestic intelligence organization. So it would be fair to say we are probably not the best organization to provide a more complete answer.
State of Pennsylvania?
No, sir.
The state of Wisconsin?
No, sir.
State of Florida?
No, sir.
State of North Carolina?
No, sir.
The state of Ohio?
No, sir.
So you have no intelligence that suggests or evidence that suggests any votes were changed?
I have nothing generated by the National Security Agency, sir.
Director Comey, do you have any evidence at the FBI that any votes were changed in the states that I mentioned to Admiral Rogers?
No.
Point is, was there somebody inside the Trump campaign who was working with them, and did the president know about that, and were they successful? And I think on those latter two questions, we have no idea.
No evidence. There's no evidence. I mean,
I agree there is no evidence, which is why we need a special prosecutor or an independent commission to get to the bottom of it.
And what evidence do you see of collusion? Do you see anything?
Well, first of all, I don't see any evidence of collusion. But second, even if there was major collusion, that's not a crime.
We begin with the deepening political crisis over the Russia connection. Through all the investigations, all the dramatic headlines, all the shifting stories about Russia's election interference and the Trump campaign's possible role in it, the president has been clear about one thing: consistently saying that he never colluded with Russia to alter the course of the presidential election. And let's be clear, he's right.
Can you say definitively that there was collusion? There were people affiliated with the Trump campaign who were working with Russians to time the release of damaging information about Hillary Clinton that had been hacked either from John Podesta or the DNC?
I don't think we can say anything definitively at this
point. Do you have evidence that there was in fact collusion between Trump associates and Russia during the campaign?
Not at this time.
What's your view on any proof? Have you seen anything that suggests any collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign?
Well, there's an awful lot of smoke there, let's put it that way. People that might have said they were involved, to what extent they were involved, to what extent the president might have known about these people or whatever. There's nothing there from that standpoint that we have seen directly linking our president to any of it.
anything, either intelligence briefings, through intelligence briefings, anything to back up any of the accusations that you've made?
Well, first of all, don't forget that all of our intelligence agencies said yes. They have the documentation that they did the hacking on the DNC.
Right.
And on some of us, you know, that
But the collusion, though?
No, we have not.
Time you separated from service in January of 2017, had you seen any evidence that Donald Trump or any member of his campaign colluded, conspired, or coordinated with the Russians or anyone else to infiltrate or impact our voter infrastructure?
Not beyond what has been out there open source, and not beyond anything that I'm sure this committee has already seen and heard before directly from the intelligence community.
Does it look like to you intentional collusion, or does it look like something more innocent?
I'm not prepared to say it was intentional collusion. I've not seen any evidence of that.
The story to me has always been, as all of us, and I think Nicole really touched on it there, the assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory, because in two regards. The president said, according to the written testimony of Mr. Comey, go ahead and get anybody's satellite to my operation and nail them. I'm with you on that. So that would mean Manafort, Carter Page, someone else like that. And then he also came across what was fascinating. Comey said that basically Flynn wasn't central to the Russian investigation, that he was touching on.
You absolutely convinced that there was some kind of collusion? Because at this point, there has been no evidence that I'm aware of, and you know, people like Chuck Grassley, Senator Chuck Grassley, have said he has seen no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
Evidence in terms of what will be gathered through this process is different than the conjecture that's been laid out through the media. I do think that there are some things that are highly unusual that are going on here, including the president's inability to condemn Russia for what every head of the intelligence communities within the government has said was an assault, an attack on our democratic process. They did attempt to influence the elections. We know that. We don't know to what extent they succeeded or didn't. And they're evaluating as well. They're doing it around the world, and they want to do it again. So those are the things that need to be found out. Whether or not there was collusion or not, that remains to be seen.
Where there were improper contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian officials, you said. We did not include any evidence in our report, and I say our. That's the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, with my office, the Director of National Intelligence, that had any reflection of collusion between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians. There was no evidence of that included in our report. Chuck Todd then asked, I understand that, but does it exist? You say, no, not to my knowledge. Is that still accurate?
It is.